So this week's video was supposed to be about Jake Scott, but the NFL just had to go and have one of the most chaotic free agencies they could have had, so let's recap it. Alright Arizona, I get it. You think you're going to be inherently better due to Murray playing the full season and that you are in prime position to currently pick up some high-end receiver talent. But Murray still needs someone with NFL experience to throw to. Trading Rondale Moore to Atlanta for Ritter gives you a serviceable backup, but Chris Moore isn't going to be enough as a possible receiver 3. The defense should be decent with Murphy Bunyan being brought in from Tennessee, but I was expecting a little more out of you. What's this? An actually really solid free agency out of Atlanta? That Cousins contract is still insane, but he's going to be light years better than either Ritter or Heineke. And you bolster an already stacked skill position group by adding Rondale Moore, Darnell Mooney, and Ray McLeod. Vegas says it best. You guys are clearly the favorite to win the NFC South. Now you just need to get the ball in the hands of all that talent. Y'all haven't done a lot, but it still hasn't been terrible. Yeah, losing Geno Stone and Patrick Queen is going to hurt, but the three-headed monster of the defense is still intact with Justin Madubuike returning on a 4-year extension. Bringing in Derrick Henry also gives the offense another element to attack by being a more physical running game. You were the 1 seed last year, and as long as you can stay healthy again, I wouldn't be shocked if it happens again. Now, if only y'all could bring in a consistent receiver, or maybe Flowers would just hold on to the ball this year. Little cap purgatory. The extensions of David Edwards and Matt Hack were nice, and being able to keep Rasul Douglas around due to restructure helps lay in the blow that releasing your entire start and secondary gives. The issue is you just haven't brought in anyone to replace them. You bring back Trubisky after he performed well during his limited appearance in Pittsburgh, but Gabe Davis walks to Jacksonville and Matt Collins is his replacement, alongside Ty Johnson coming in to replace Naheem Hines. This doesn't even talk about Mitch Morse leaving as well, and you have a long way to go this offseason, Buffalo. Every year, a team goes worst to first in the division, and Carolina is hoping that is them this year. They had money to spend, and boy, are they spending it. A complete revamp of guard play by bringing in Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis, a bolstering of the defense with Jordan Fuller and Dane Jackson being brought in, and you give Bryce Young another target to throw to by acquiring Deontay Johnson. So what if Johnson has some hustle issues in Pittsburgh? He had Kenny Pickett throwing him the ball. Yeah, you had to give up Dante Jackson, but that's why you get the others. What the fuck is that Brian Burns trade? The Rams offered you 2 firsts and a second last year for him, and you send him to New Jersey for a second and a fifth, plus like a conditional fifth and 25. I'm sorry, but you need to stay away from offseason trades for as long as you can. With Justin Fields being traded, it's time to roll out the red carpet for Caleb Williams. I mean, this is a very solid team that he's going to have with him, a completely revamped offensive line, DeAndre Swift to be a running back 1, Gerald Everett to be a tight end 1, and Keenan Allen, which you gained for pretty much nothing. You revamped their defense as well a little bit. This team has a very good potential next year. The NFC North is somewhat up for grabs, but, I mean, you'll definitely be better than you were last year. Oh boy, Cincy, you really are banking on Burrow's injury to be the real reason for a disappointing season. You understand you can't be starting slow forever, right? Trading Mixon to Houston for pennies on the dollar and placing him with Zach Moss is certainly an offseason move. T. Higgins isn't trying to play on attack and now has requested a trade. And for as much as I like Mike Gesicki, he's nothing special when it comes to making people miss or blocking. The defense should still be fine though, and bringing in Von Bell while also gaining Geno Smith and Sheldon Rankins are nice signings. But you just can't afford another slow start to the season. Focusing on keeping guys in the building wasn't a terrible strategy, and trading for Jerry Jeudy to pair with Amari Cooper is going to help Watson try and get back to Houston form. And even then, if you gotta throw in Jameis Winston, he can be as serviceable with the current weapons you have. Cleveland played better than expectations last year, especially after Watson went down, and this has potential to be a very good year for Cleveland. Was the all-in push that Jerry Jones was pushing for? This is what you do after the way the season just ended. The comment Skip Bayless's tweet is more all-in than the team is looking. You pick up the 5th-year option for Parsons, but releasing both Van Der Esch and Gallup while only really gaining Eric Kendricks. This might be the first year where Dallas fans aren't delusional. Oh, who the fuck am I kidding? There still will be. So, Denver, hope you enjoyed the ride. Although Russ isn't on the team anymore, the ride isn't quite over just yet, as you have $85 million in dead cap over the next 2 years, meaning you have to start saying goodbye to some lifelong pieces. Judy and Simmons are just the beginning, with rumors that Patrick Surtain II might be on the move next. But you're in good position to get a QB of the future, and Brandon Jones is a nice addition. But the next couple of years are going to be rough. Hope you've enjoyed seeing KC dominate. It's going to keep happening. What a season for y'all, and Holmes and Camp will get awarded for it by both getting extended through 2027. And even the Simons of Amik Robertson, DJ Reader, and Graham Glasnow were solid additions to an already great team. Plus, upgrading from CJ Gardner-Johnson by trading for Carlton Davis, the Lions are looking to get over the hump and play in the first Super Bowl next year. Wow, what a season, and sorry for the rest of the NFC North, but they did it again with Jordan Love. Not a lot being done so far, but the main moves they've made are great for them. Xavier McKinney to help bolster the defense, and Josh Jacobs to form a great running back room for all of a few hours. Aaron Jones getting released is going to hurt, not just because of his play on the field, but what he meant to that locker room. At least A.J. Dillon and Keyshawn Nixon are back, and the core of the team is still really young, and they'll only get better from here. Solid free agency so far. Keeping Dalton Schultz and Desmond King were key, and you were able to accomplish it. Bringing in Jeff Okudah on a prove-it deal is a nice upside sign-in. Adding to the ground game with Joe Mixon being brought in from Cincy was a great trade considering what you gave up. And getting some draft picks from Minnesota in exchange for their first rounders sets them up nice to get some high-caliber prospects in the draft. Good job, Houston. You were one game away last year from winning the division with Gardner Minshew as your quarterback for most of the season, so the lack of splashes is making sense. Was hoping you would have learned from Andrew Luck and actually go get a top O-line prospect in this free agency, but there is always a draft. Reinforcing the defense was done well with Raekwon Davis and Zaire Franklin being two new additions, and both are very solid. But please do something to improve the offensive line, and don't let Anthony Richardson be another Andrew Luck. Or maybe even have him do jiu-jitsu. I hear Tua knows a guy. What was that? You had the division practically won. All you had to do was beat the Titans, and the story of the season is completely different. Instead, it's a disappointment, and there are questions everywhere. At least you bring in some key pieces of Ronald Darby, Darnell Savage, Mitch Morris, and Gabe Davis. You only gave up a 6 for Mac Jones, which should provide, hopefully, a better backup than CJ Beathard. But you lose Calvin Ridley after trading a decent haul for him. Just don't collapse again, and you should be fine. The quest for a three-peat begins, and it's off to a good start. Keeping Drew Tranquill and Chris Jones is massive, and you provide Mahomes with some more options in Hollywood Brown and Irv Smith. Listen, as long as the main trio of Mahomes, Kelsey, and Reed are there, KC is going to be fine. The main question is, what happens with L'Jarius Sneed? He doesn't want to be there, but the requirements for any possible trade or deal anywhere else is a lot to ask for a team. Christian Wilkins Vegas. He is one hell of a player, and pairing him with Max Crosby is going to make opposing quarterbacks terrified. Minshew will also be a very solid backup or potential week 1 starter and mentor for whoever you decide to draft. The question is now, how do you replace Josh Jacobs? Yeah, Zamir White is solid, but a solid 1-2 punch at running back goes a long way to helping a young quarterback. I thought Arizona was limited when it comes to weapons on the offensive side, but do you really expect Herbert to throw to Quentin Johnston as a receiver 1? Hayden Hurst is nice, but he missed the second half of the season last year due to head injury, and even when he was playing, it wasn't anything fancy. Bowers or Ozuna is most likely to pick at 5, but what do you do afterwards? Yes, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen had their problems, but they were consistent when healthy. And the defense still looks nearly identical. Just have fun with Blake Corum. Gus Edwards is not going to be the guy to replace Eckler, I can promise you that. Well, it's the end of an era. Aaron Donald is gone, and the D-line has some holes now. But you improved the secondary by bringing in Cameron Curl and Darius Williams. You finally have a first-round pick thanks to Carolina being dumbasses, but this is a surprising lack of additions. I guess you did overperform in the eyes of many last year, but there's not a lot of time left to get the most out of Stafford. Either way, you got your ring, and there's just a few more years left until a full-on rebuild happens, so enjoy. The reactions from the first days of free agency was very well deserved, don't get me wrong, but this has been a very solid offseason for Miami so far, and is not a full reset year either. Losing Wilkins and Hunt both sucked, but Miami was never going to be able to afford both of them at the contracts they ended up receiving. Van Ginkel, Brandon Jones, Deshaun Elliott, Jerome Baker, and Xavier Howard are all going to be missed, but they found pieces that slide right in there. Jordan Poyer on a 1-year prove-it deal, Kendall Fuller, Jordan Brooks, Anthony Walker, Shaq Barrett, Jonnu Smith, Aaron Brewer, and Sherron Neal can all come in and provide very quality snaps for Miami. And they all are making about what Wilkins and Hunt will be making combined this year. Just gotta get that Tua and Waddle extension done this offseason before things go really out of hand. If you do that, I think all will be well. Please tell me you have more plans than Sam Darnold for the quarterback position. If not, I feel for Justin Jefferson this season. Aaron Jones is an improvement over Alexander Mattison, and both Van Ginkel and Jonathan Greener can provide a quality presence on the edge. But how is losing Cousins this much of a setback for you at the moment? You had to have seen this coming, or at least think it was a possibility. If all this is a panic play, then you have a lot of work ahead from you, and that extra pick from Houston's not going to be enough. Belichick is gone, and the franchise is in a lost state at the moment. You at least move on from Mac Jones and set up the selection for a quarterback at 3, but what weapons are they going to target? You've missed on nearly every receiver you've targeted so far, and it was forced to re-sign Jalen Reagor. At least you have a solid running back in Antonio Gibson and a defense that is still intact, but you don't have Brady anymore to carry a mediocre offense to a division title and beyond. You couldn't even give up a 4th for Keenan Allen. Welcome to the basement. Enjoy your stay. How has cap purgatory been? It's been years since you've been a real player in free agency, and this year is no different. Michael Thomas is now out of the building, and your best move was signing Cedric Wilson. Enjoy him, by the way. It took him a season and a half to catch a touchdown for Miami, but maybe he'll be better off over there. It can't be much longer at this point, just for your sake. The South ain't the same as it once was, and you're going to be left behind. Congrats on pulling off the fleece of the offseason. You took advantage of a desperate situation in Carolina and sold Brian Burns for pennies compared to what he was worth. Drew Lock should provide nice backup play, but Daniel Jones' contract is forcing your hand, and now Saquon is gone and replaced by Devin Singletary. You better hope Daniel Jones figures it out, otherwise you're going to be in a rough situation. Oh, and there's reports that you might draft JJ McCarthy. Good luck. I thought the plan for the offseason was to eliminate distractions from the building. What the fuck is this shit surrounding Rodgers now? The team is actually building a solid O-line for him, and he may dip to run for vice president. I used to look up to Rodgers while I was playing, but since he broke his collarbone, it's just been a bunch of bullshit after bullshit and an endless string of offseason attention-grabbing decisions. At least y'all have an actual backup now in Tyrod Taylor, but what gets done with Zach Wilson? Look at the bright side. The Pats are more of a laughingstock than you in the division now. Who am I kidding? It will always be the Jets. Of the game is retiring. Canton is waiting for you, Jason. But now you have to adapt, Philly. A bolstering of the defense are bringing in Bryce Huff and CJ Gardner-Johnson, plus keeping Brandon Graham for at least another year helps. The offense should look better if Saquon can stay healthy. Devontae Parker can be a very solid receiver if you don't mind throwing into negative separation. But you gave up quite a bit for Kenny Pickett, who will be a backup for you at best, and at worst, he'll be back in Pittsburgh playing for the Maulers. The good is that Dallas is doing nothing, meaning the division is yours for the taking. Just don't screw it up. Steeler Nation, let's smell. To be fair, that's a very nice contract for Russell Wilson, and he will be better than Pickett at least. Plus, now he'll be a good mentor for Justin Fields, but the offense still has some questions as the only additions so far are those 2 quarterbacks. You lost Deontay Johnson in order to bring in Dante Jackson, which means you're probably more defensive-minded again, and the additions of Deshaun Elliott and Patrick Queen definitely help bolster that side of the ball. At worst, you'll still go 9-8 and somehow make the playoffs due to some of the good old Steeler magic. Enjoy the season without Canada. Wonder who you'll blame if stuff goes south, though. You know, if that punt didn't hit off that player's foot, you probably would have won the Super Bowl last year, so there's not a lot you really need to improve on. Even then, you have some quality pieces in Devondre Campbell and Leonard Floyd. This should be another solid year for you. Just make sure you can capitalize on this window before Purdy is up for extension. That will definitely break the bank if he keeps up his level of play. How much longer can Geno Smith keep up a level of play that keeps you in a playoff race before you decide to just break it down and rebuild? Sam Howell ain't the future you might believe he is, and with Pete Carroll gone, you're a question mark again. You can't depend on him to figure it out and keep you a competitive team. Letting go of Adams and Diggs is a good start, but at some point you just need to fully commit. Rayshawn Jenkins is a solid signing and will probably help the defense more than Adams was towards the end of his tenure there, but just hit the rebuild button sooner rather than later. Well, Baker got paid, and Evans is staying for at least a season or 2, plus a lot of the defense decided to re-sign. Trading Carlton Davis hurts, but adding both Bryce Hall and Jordan Whitehead is going to prove that defense as long as Antoine Winfield is willing to play on the tag, although the hope should be to re-sign him long term. As long as Baker can keep up his level of play, y'all are going to be in a good position to repeat as division champs. Though, much further is still up in the air in my opinion. What the fuck are you doing? No, seriously, what is your plan? Yes, it made sense for Henry to be gone, and Pollard isn't a bad pickup if he can return to form thanks to being a part of a 1-2 punch with Tajay Spears. But Calvin Ridley? And at $92 million over 4 years? You traded A.J. Brown because you weren't willing to give him $100 million over 4 years. And now you're paying $110 million on 2 receivers. One is pushing 30, and the other is turning 32 before the season. I just don't get it. Good luck in the division because the other teams aren't going to back down. Since when did you become the retirement home of the league? Yeah, these aren't bad sign-ins, but they're nowhere near the level it would have been if it happened, say, 3 years ago. Yes, all of these guys can still play at a high level, but it's not a great foundation to build a team off of. When it comes to the younger guys they've signed, I do like Jeremy Chin and Cleveland Farrell, both on one-year prove-it deals, but that's part of the issue. It's a bunch of guys either on prove-it deals or had nowhere else to sign due to age. At least you can get a QB of the future, hopefully.